Femme, what's happening? I don't know when this interview is gonna air, but to me, happy Pride. It's June 3rd. It's Pride Month. I'm here with my homosexual friends, here to advance the homosexual agenda for another episode of Femme House Radio, Pass the Mic edition, where coincidentally we highlight queer and BIPOC voices. This is Lou, better known as Olan, and this is Meg, better known as Quarter. What's happening?
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, 4 highs. That's cool. Tell me, we've talked to both of you before. It's been a while, I think, since we talked to each of you, and we've never talked to you both at the same time. I'm really excited for this interview because I love the music that you guys have been making and like the general creative direction of the projects y'all have been working on.
Thank you.
Lou, Olan, tell me, what is your superhero origin story? How'd you get here with me and Megan right now in this moment?
I think at least this phase of my life, I think it's stemming from realizing that I can achieve the things that I wanted to as a kid. Where I want to be a touring musician. I want to write as much music as possible and release it and sign to labels that I've been dreaming about. I did that, and sort of realizing it's not what it's cracked up to be exactly. And I think it was also happening very fast, faster than I was really I had the discipline for, I think. And so now with this next album and with this like you said, creative direction that I get to do with my partner, it's sort of this reestablishment of exploring what my intentions are, what I want from this experience on my own terms. And it might be a slower growth, but I get to do it with people that I care about very deeply and move with more intention, I think, which is hopefully going to lead me into less situations where I'm just getting thrown to the wolves, I guess. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I guess my superhero origin story would be, music has always been a hobby of mine. I did it in middle school and high school. I'd make silly little songs, and then really what happened was I went to my first music festival and took acid for the first time. And
a common story for us all.
Yeah.
I feel that's all of us.
Yeah, and I was just oh man, I think I should really make music something that is part of my life, whatever that means, and then sort of became a more active hobby in my life. And then I started throwing parties. It's Wave Cave was the party series in 2016, and I was a resident DJ, and then it kind of just snowballed. Started releasing music, and I think that origin story is sort of coming back around now for me, where it snowballed and started going in a direction that I was confused by, frankly. And then recently, really working with Lou on music and starting to develop a real connection with another artist, and realizing all the ways that this industry can wear you down, I feel like I'm really searching for those roots again and just trying to find the joy in it and wanting it to feel like that fun hobby and that fun party series essentially all over again, just with more resources now.
You know what's been sort of striking me about the past couple of years for you guys, and watching you work together and seeing the music that comes out of it, it's so clear y'all have an amazing time. You guys are having a lot of fun making the music and exploring, you guys' connection, as a couple, but also musically. And Lou, for me specifically, that's really showing in the rollout for this next project. I've just absolutely been loving the content that you've gotten up to, and how unique it is, and how sort of intrinsic to who you are as a human being it is. The essays on your website, and I can't remember that silly little game that you play that you're really good at.
Kendama, yeah.
The Kendama, the Kendama content for the Femhouse fam that doesn't understand, top tier. If you were for some reason, I don't know why you would be, but if you were for some reason looking for an entryway into the Kendama corner of the internet, start with Lou.
What's funny is it completely took over my entire identity in on the tour last year with Odessa, where because there's this company from Georgia that gave me a ton. They were like, yeah, give one out at every show, which was the goal. I was like trying to give them out to fans, but then like people on the actual crew kept asking for them. And then like it became such a horrible distraction where I'm like, if this were school, like we'd all be getting suspended right now because like the Odessa drumline would be like playing during sound check, and I'm like, this can't be like productive or responsible. But it's a huge thing in the bass music scene. Like,
oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Like, I actually got like everyone kept picking on me because they were like, "Oh, like, are you a wook now because you play kendama?" And I'm like, I just feel like everyone should be playing it.
Speaking of the Odessa tour, that feels like a huge. That to me, like watching as a fan, felt like a huge sort of like catalyst to like this current era for you. You're playing live a bunch. You're playing live to an audience that appreciated the liveness of what you were doing. How did How did that change everything from like the stuff you started making musically to how you started conceptualizing your career and putting all the pieces together?
I think that was really interesting because the offer was initially supposed to just go to Megan. Megan's the one who like initially landed that tour, and she didn't want to do it by herself. So she asked me if I wanted to do it, and then it's like, we're not going to back-to-back as DJs for 25 minutes. That'd be messed up. And so I was used to playing live through my Contra headline tour, but it was a really tough experience. I didn't have any help on that at all, and I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for it. But for this one, it was awesome because I kind of just showed Megan like the building blocks of what you need to program a live show, which is a lot of work. But she has such incredible professional experience through her work in the film industry. So like, we were able to pretty much come up with this fail-safe system where like we can make sure like computers like like our computers aren't bailing on us, or like making sure she can have fun like playing the tracks out. I was only playing bass and singing and like playing bass synths, but mainly like just doing what I grew up doing, which was so satisfying. And it was even cooler programming the show because we would just alternate between our songs, and it was cool to see like with a live show it's not like DJing where you kind of have to maintain the energy. With this, we got to play my slower songs, a lot of slow songs that Megan makes and nobody like people might not pick up on, but her range as a producer, we got to like really highlight that. And especially there were certain shows where we got to play for like 45 minutes, and that was like really exciting. Especially I want to say like in Mexico City was one of our favorite stops, where like it's like you said, where I think when this project was initially taking off, I would get put in these really big venues, but it wasn't necessarily I knew it wasn't the crowd for me. Like they weren't really about what I was doing, which is fine, but it was cool to see that it wasn't me necessarily. Like it's like, no, I just needed to find the people that want to listen to what I'm making. And the reception to what Megan and I were doing together was really just inspiring. And I think doing all of that like made both of us realize like, wait, you can curate this environment where you're touring in a healthy and safe way with people you trust, and like there's a way to do this where it feels like fail safe, and you have a crew that is caring about the process just as much as you are, which is so hard to find. And I know Odessa's like been doing this for a long time, but they've curated such a strong camp, and it shows. And like there was never a time where Megan and I felt like we didn't belong or like uncomfortable. Like it was such an eye-opening experience where we're like, I don't know if we can recreate this level of production value, but we definitely want to have this like day-to-day experience. I don't know if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I think similar to what Lou was saying, it was super inspiring, and being around other artists. I think what it was too is like Lou and I both are in a situation where we do have a lot of range in what we write and produce, and I think sometimes it's really easy in dance music for people to want to pigeonhole you for like the sake of marketing you well. And I think like I kept finding myself on tech house stages. Lou kept finding herself on like melodic house trance stages. And you know, even though we can fit that mold, we can adapt to those crowds, it always felt like we weren't being completely true to what we are as artists. And Odessa is one of those acts where there's a lot of range, and we were playing with like Bob Moses, Bonobo, Toki Monster, like all these people that make all kinds of different electronic music. And so it just felt, it was like, oh, okay, like this is perfect. We can be ourselves. We can play our music and not feel
like that, to fit in.
That we have to pander to a certain demographic or anything, like, and people were up for it. So it was really inspiring, and I feel like it was a catalyst for us kind of wanting to be even more ourselves, and whatever that meant, whether like now it's like trying to self-release and really create a world for ourselves and not have too many hands sort of getting in the way or having us lean in one way or the other that doesn't feel true to what we're doing.
Great.
That's awesome. And I'm gonna hijack a couple of things that you said. But we talk at Femme House obviously a lot about allyship, and we focus a lot on allyship, building allyship, identifying it, defining it for people that don't understand what it means, encouraging allies to sort of like use the resources that they have at their disposal to help, right? And I think like what you just described with Odessa is a really powerful illustration of that, because it on its face is sort of simple, right? Like while it shouldn't be like groundbreaking that like they called you up to open, it sort of is, right? Unfortunately. But not only did they do that, but they made sure that the platform that they were letting you use, that you could use it for yourself, that you could use it to be true to yourself, that you could find yourself, that you could experiment, that you could be exactly and do exactly what it is that you wanted to be and do musically. And like they made it so that it was not just sort of like a platform experience, like, oh, here you go, big stage, have a good time, but like an environment that fostered you, as you said, to be exactly who it is that you want to be, and like explore that meaningfully, share that with their crowd, and create an actual truly safe space.
Seriously though, like they made a point to come watch our shows all the time. Like the layout is different, where like once you're on site at the venue, you can't really like go anywhere. But they made an active point, especially Clay from the crew, to like stand side stage and watch us all the time. Like Toki and Bob Moses, like they'd be standing in the crowd and watching our set all the time, which was really comforting. But even like there'd be certain situations where like a fan or someone working at the venue or something would be a little too like out of pocket, immediately handled in a way that I'm like, I've been in a lot of situations previously where I'm like, oh, no one is going to have my back. If I'm actually like in physical distress or danger, no one is going to help me. But like that was not the case at all. Like you had emotional support. We had this guy named Coach looking after us. He's like, let me know if somebody looks at you funny. You can punch him and then I'll back you up or whatever. Which is like,
that didn't happen. That never happened.
It never happened. But like. We knew we were taken care of. There was a physical therapist that was on, we were on the same bus with her, who was phenomenal. Her name's Gabby. But yeah, there was so much support. Even the stage crew, like the guys that were taking care of Megan and I for like our sound and lighting, if there was something that went wrong on one show, they would have a solution the next show without us asking. They're like, hey, we noticed you couldn't talk to us on stage. We put a mic on stage for you. We noticed you had trouble turning it on. We put a foot switch on the stage for you.
It was amazing.
Like, they hooked, like, even though like the tiering volume system was still there, where like people tier volumes throughout the show, which makes sense to an extent. Sometimes it's a little overdone, but in this case, like, the lighting guys would pop off so hard. If we were in a stadium and like the lights were off, they would go off. It was great. And something that stood out the most, I think, is that like the Odessa guys, like you said, it wasn't this like posturing thing. They were like, go as hard as you want to, it doesn't matter. And it's like, yeah, because when you look at their production, there's nothing we could possibly do that would overshadow what they're doing. There's just not. And when you talk to the guys, they don't operate from this mindset of scarcity. They don't feel like, oh, the young bucks are going to take our job or not. Like, there's none of that, which can happen with DJing because we're all doing the exact same thing. Like, the only thing you can do to separate people is like tiering the volume and then like playing the best set you can. But like with the live situation, there's so much more that goes into it that like Megan and I, like, we can play a great set, but like we're not having fireworks and pyro and lasers, and it's like there's nothing to like compete with. And I think because of that, and much more, like the Odessa guys are like, no, go as hard as you want to, play drum and bass, we don't care, like just you need to express everything. And like they also they were like, you know, you guys just got to keep doing these support tours, it's gonna be great. And like we had to ride in our mom's van for most of our tours, but you eventually get there. And I'm like, when? They're really kind.
So it sounds like, you know, you're fresh off this sort of like environment of support and safety and coziness and like advocacy and like really feeling yourselves. I have to imagine that contributed to a crazy creative wave, which sort of like gets us here to this musical moment right now. You got a new single, you got a record.
Do you want to
coming.
actually talk about your EP first, like with Wilt?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, because I feel like that has something to do with it.
Yeah. So actually, it was right before this will all come together. It was right before the Odessa tour. So it was last summer, and I was thinking about quitting my project. It was this weird thing where like I had been full-time doing music for a couple years at that point, and it was just starting to feel like it's like all the lights in the club came on for me, and I suddenly saw a lot of what is terrible about the music industry, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to like pander to crowds that don't need more industry people. I need artists. And so like I reached out to a bunch of friends and started like working on collaborations, and then I got this concept together for my recent EP Wilt, and it's about feeling like I was wilting, but I sought out community and other artists and made some music that I am the most proud of, and so I put that out, and it kind of felt like shedding a skin. And it was through that process where I also was like realizing, like, I started thinking about when I first started, and I had that party series with Wave Cave with my best friend, and I was like, and we did release some records on it as a label, but I was like, I think I need to bring it back. Like, I need to create community again, like really put that as the priority, and not like all this other stuff that the team is in my ear saying I need to prioritize for money, you know. And so I was like, it's time to get to building community again. And me and Lou, you know, we're together and we're talking about music all the time, and we're like scheming all these ideas. And Lou had started working on another album, and we kept toying with the idea of like, what if we self-release? And it's crazy that it was like, oh my God, what if? Like, as it's like a lot of these labels are taking half of your, you know, quote unquote money, any money you make off streams, I guess, but like they're taking like half of your money and hardly doing things for the most part. It's tough to really, like, such a saturated, you know, market. It's really tough to shine through unless you have a lot of backing. And we were like, well, if we're putting in so much work to begin with on our own, on our end, why not self-release and just see how far we can take it? And we've come so far. We have built like all these contacts, and we have the resources now. Like, what if we worked with other artists and just like almost like, you know, mutual aid type of thing in terms of making art and creating and trying to share resources with each other? And so that's Wave Cave right now, is sort of this collective more than a label in my mind, where if artists want to get involved, we all share resources and try to push each other's art as hard as possible. And that's so anyway, Lou is going to be the debut of this new iteration of Wave Cave with her album Floating Worlds. Yeah. And I'll give it to you.
I think Megan and I were in the same sort of situation, but I was experiencing it much later, despite last summer being extremely hard. with like a very like abrupt just stop to what I was doing with old label, old team. Like it was like an immediate cut where I'm like, okay, none of these people are in my life anymore. And going from that to doing something like the Odessa tour was making me see like, oh, I cannot let myself go back to that state like ever again. I have to actually like fight to stay away from that. And the end of the tour was actually really hard because I'm like, how do I maintain what I just got to experience? I don't know where to start at all. And I decided I wrote almost all of the entire album in December, really, like, and then spent the last few months just cutting tracks away and then like refining it from there. But the more I would like send the album out to people, and that would be encouraging, but I would realize I'm like, it doesn't really matter. Like these people that have already established themselves might be very encouraging, but they're not going to help in a way that I might actually need. And that's usually the case. Or it's like, especially administrative types, they might be encouraging, but they don't understand what is necessary. They'll be like asking you about your brand before the songs are even done yet. And it's just like, that's just not how it works. That's not how you finish music. And the closer I was getting to finishing the album, the less I wanted to navigate sharing that with a label, because there were so many times where like we'll release and then like they're like you'll have to come up with content yourself, which is like, okay, like that's fine, but why am I giving you a split if I still have to come up with the content myself? And then like maybe they'll push it for like a week or two. Maybe you'll get editorial playlists, but editorial playlists aren't sustainable. It doesn't maintain your streams. Like your numbers will drop like substantially unless you keep putting out singles every week or every month or whatever. And I was like, I don't want to play that game. Like Megan and I are both people that want to put out albums and take our time and like just tour, put out albums, like traditional band cycle. And so I ended up actually like the feeling of like not like it's like the same thing Megan was experiencing, where it's like this music industry is something that's so disappointing and fake in so many ways. Like it's just flaky, and people are, no matter how much work you do, people are constantly looking at, well, what's the potential of the work in the future? And we're going to completely dismiss everything you've done. Like even with the Odessa tour, like we're still having to navigate so much where it feels like you would think we just started, with the way people will like kind of come at you. And so floating worlds is a term that I found in a book. It's from a Japanese term that I don't want to butcher, but it's like ukiyo. And it's a Buddhist term referring to the like, it's like translates to sorrowful world, or like unreliable, transient world. And like how it's like a cycle of despair. As long as you have desire in this world, you will constantly be disappointed. And that this world is something that it's like a cycle that you have to break out of. And so this album is kind of me experiencing those feelings. And that's what my first album was about too. Contra was very much this like existential pit of dread, but it ended in a place of like feeling just as lost. Like Contra ends with like still feeling absolutely faithless in the process, but I didn't understand why. Where now I got to see like, oh no, I get to understand just how this, not just music industry, but life is so embedded in white supremacy and patriarchal structures that like I have to assimilate to, or I will be thrown out immediately. And that is not just my experience. It is a collective experience that we all have to deal with. It affects men. It affects white men. It affects everyone. And it's so unreliable. I have to actively fight and choose happiness regardless of that. And that's like the conclusion I come to with this second album, rather than like just this like wave of misunderstanding, not just of my surroundings, but of myself. That I think I just like, with Contra, I just don't think I was mature enough to understand what I was trying to unpack. I just knew I was feeling it. So I think self-releasing just made sense to do. And I think doing it with Megan's intention and story makes sense.
I'll tell you what, Femme, before I like press record on this interview, I was like jokingly, because it's June 3rd, Pride Month, right? I was like, ready to further the homosexual agenda, and they were like, bet. And like, we've covered feelings, existential dread, going on tour with your girlfriend, like making music with your girlfriend, patriarchy, white supremacy, like the agenda is alive and kicking.
I'm like, Megan and I can talk about it all day, honestly.
Yeah,
we do. Yeah.
I just think that everything that you're saying is so cool. Like this idea, and I especially love that I've gotten to sort of speak to you at both ends of the spectrum, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the last time we chatted, like Contra was just about to come out. You're flying high. You're feeling like great about your label, great about your team. Like you were just like top of the world.
I didn't know any better.
Sure. And so like, you know, to you're like,
I didn't get hit with a rock in the back of the head yet. That's why.
Fucking Lou. Femme, this is also what makes Lou a terrific Twitter follow if you're on Twitter. But like for real shit, like to see you sort of like come full circle and return to yourself is super tight, especially as someone that cares about you as a person, considers you a friend. Like it's really great to see you guys sort of being the change in a specific way and leading with community and understanding that it is important to do, not just for yourselves as artists, but like to the culture, to art itself. Especially in dance music, as we get further and further and further and further and further and further away from its actual roots, which was a community building like ethos in the first place. So I'm so grateful to bear witness. It's a really good time to watch you guys having a really good time. Tell the family, you guys are B2Bing this mix that'll be playing. Like, tell us about that.
Yeah, no, Lou and I we're gonna have fun. It's all about like, yeah, joy. So we're gonna have fun with it. Lou's gonna be playing some music off the album Floating Worlds. I'm gonna be squeezing in some prior Wave Cave releases from a few years back,
Tight.
and then just some stuff we've been grooving to lately. So we're trying to make people dance and like feel some emotions, but mostly shake ass.
Megan, are you like, would you say that you are, as you've sort of like resurrected Wave Cave, are you seeking out signees? Like, are you looking for new artists to work with to join the collective?
Absolutely. We've already, me, Lou, and our friend Misha, who goes by Mirandoja, we were just working on some stuff a couple weekends ago in the studio. So we're like already thinking about some next releases, and I'm planning to reach out to a lot of artists that I've worked with in different capacities and see how they want to be part of Wave Cave, if they want to be part of Wave Cave. That doesn't even need to be like releasing music necessarily. I want it to be, just this like all-encompassing resource for people, and I want to, just be like, again, prioritizing community with other artists, and so we are looking for more. And I put out a newsletter recently where I was like, here's a contact form. If you want to get involved in some way, let's talk. I'm really ready to like reach out and spend the time like talking to other people who are excited about this sort of thing, and just have fun. It's supposed to be fun.
Would you say that there's like a sonic identity to Wave Cave that you're looking to accommodate, or is it just like come one, come all, come
Honestly,
good,
I think
have
it's
fun?
I think it's mostly rooted in electronic music for sure. Especially even like past releases have all been electronic, but I think that's the only baseline, and I'm not opposed to even extending beyond that. For me, it's more so just like I think the common denominator is the ethos of building community and artists. Like, I want it to be for artists by artists. I don't want any meddling. Like, it's entirely just like uncompromised vision. That's really the bottom line.
That's awesome. Lou, what can we expect from your project? What's the album feeling like for you?
I feel like I do still explore a lot of different genres like I did in Contra, but it is more house leaning. Less breaks this time, but it is cleaner. Like it's a much tighter, cohesive album in my opinion. And I also didn't sing on it as directly. There's only like one ballad on the entire album. Where like with Contra I did sing a lot more, but with Floating Worlds I use my voice more as like a synth. I treat it more like an instrument that gets like resampled, which was something that a friend of ours like challenged me to do, because in my mind I'm like, my voice is what sets me apart, which like yeah, but I wanted to try something that just was different for me in a way where I'm like, if lyrics come naturally, sure, but I'm not going to like press myself to like get the pen game going. So that's mainly, it's like, again, it's more house and garage leaning, but it's definitely still like a multi-genre thing. Like I couldn't just say it's like, oh yeah, it's like mainly a house record. Like it's still just as eclectic as Contra, I think. It's range, yeah.
My final question, and I think that you both know this and have answered it, so I'm going to tweak it, but it's usually like, if you're sitting down with your younger self, what would you say? I'm gonna customize it to suit the homosexual agenda that we're pushing as well. If you guys, do you guys have a duo name actually? Do you even think of yourselves as a duo?
No, we actually made a point when we went on tour together. We made a visual that would play behind us that said like Quarter and Olan, Olan and Quarter, like it would keep switching.
Oh, tight.
Yeah, we just wanted to. We weren't thinking of starting a whole new project. It was more just like a combination of these already sort of like created worlds, and what does it sound like when you combine them?
Let me see, what is my question going to be? I think my question is, if you guys are sitting with yourselves as you are now, but yourselves and also yourselves 5 years ago, how long have you known each other? How about this? Ooh, I have a good one.
Yeah.
This is getting very lesbian on the chat right now.
Love it.
You guys are sitting here right now, like you guys, and you're interviewing you two on the day that you met. What do you say to make sure that y'all keep going and make it to this version of yourselves?
Things play out. There's nothing that I would change. As hard as these last 2 years have been outside of our relationship, there was nothing that I would actually change about it. Because I think what was so difficult is actually what made sure we could actually like, oh no, I can lean on this person. Like if we can get through what we had to, even the tour, like as fun as it was a lot of work, and we were able to maintain that. There wasn't any like, we didn't fight or anything. It was just like kind of just putting our heads down and focusing on what needed to be done, and that's typically how we operate in every aspect of our relationship. And I think if we did talk to ourselves like on the day we met, it'd be this like reassurance that like, hey, you need to like allow each other the space to be yourselves, because that's what's going to keep you together in the long term. Like just giving each other the room like that you need, and enjoy the process of evolving together, because that's kind of what it's been. Where even if we're not starting a duo, we don't have any plans of that, but like it's just this like cohesive like mutual growth and support of each other, that's, and allowing each other the space, not letting jealousy get in the way or anything like that. It's like it can get hard sometimes, but it's as long as we communicate, like I feel like we're fine. And that's really like, yeah, I would just tell ourselves to like stick with it.
Well, what's funny is that the day that I met Lou, I said, "What's your 5-year plan?"
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I know, right?
Lou of all people gives you, oh, I could answer that.
I know 5 minutes from now.
No, I know. But we figured out the first 2 years. I've got the answer to that. But no, the reason why we actually met was because I listened to Contra, and I was like, oh, I think Olan might be the only other artist I can think of that's sort of a peer doing something kind of similar to me in terms of like not caring about genre and just leaning into a feeling. And I was like, I have to talk to this girl and I want to collab. And
collab you did.
And we did.
It took like 6 months.
The ultimate collab. Yeah, and then we met, and it was one of those things where it was like immediate connection, but it was like, I can trust this person. Like, immediately felt like I could trust her and be honest with her about my experience in music. And it didn't help for me that I had a team, specifically one person on my team, who would essentially try to tell me not to trust other artists, try to convince me to like keep my cards, you know, hidden. But I don't really know what the benefit to that was, because the second I started to actually trust other artists, I think not only did my art grow and become more interesting, but I just started to feel happy and excited about art again. So yeah, I think like a question I would ask when we met, I was asking so many questions because I was like, oh my God, I can actually talk to you. I like, let's talk about all of it, because I haven't been able to with another artist before.
It took a minute though, where like I feel like in the beginning of our relationship, you kind of had to like learn that I wasn't out to get you, and like we'd have to like talk things through. We're like, hey, like this, I'm not there's no scheme, there's no plans, there's no like anything. And I think over time, like your mind stopped going to that immediate assumption. Because trauma.
But yeah, it's pretty. I was very much interviewing Lou the day we met.
Well, I think it's gotten just about as gay as it can get here on screen. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
Thank you for y'all's time. I can't wait to see what else y'all cook up with Wave Cave and beyond. Personally, with your relationship, y'all are emanating joy and delight in ways that I'm really, really happy to see, and two really, really good people and great artists that I admire. And I know you're going to change the culture, and I can't wait to see it. And I support it wholeheartedly. Please don't, girl.
Just not crying.
It can't, like, we have hit our gay quota.
I can't believe
that
you believe in me.
I feel like SiriusXM is gonna call and be like, hey, too gay.
We can't
if
play
you
it,
start
it's
crying.
too gay. Thank you so much.
Femme House fam, these idiots are my friends. Support them as much as I do. And thanks for being here with us.
Thank
Peace.
you.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Do we end the call? Are we like closing the call?
No, don't worry about it. I'm gonna